Hey everybody, it's Jim of Animateducated. Just want to let you know that if you're in London, like I'm in London right now, you can go to the BFI South Bank. They're having a exhibit of Leica animation throughout August throughout September, and other animated films that are in stop motion. They're having this whole exhibition there, and I got a chance to go to a screening of ParaNorman Question and Answer, and the directors of the film, Chris Butler and Sam Fell, were there, and they gave this interview. Check it out. It's pretty interesting.
It's a way to take the Scooby-Doo-ness of it and ground it, I think, because we always wanted it to be a real movie about real characters. So while we wanted to have a lot of fun with, the garish colors, the references to like 70s and 80s horror, and the Scooby-Doo thing, we still wanted it to feel like these were real people, and Norman was a real kid. Yeah. And part of that was to make the place real. We spent a lot of time, and this is an unusual thing in animation as well. Studio Ghibli does a lot of it, and you see it more and more now, but it was taking time to establish the place. So ordinarily in an animated movie, you storyboard lots of shots of like trash in the gutter, or like we've got the rusted old bike against the chain link fence. Those are the things that kept cut out for time. And we held on to those because we wanted to create this sense of time and place.
And also, it's just for attention span as well. Like you'll test, the bigger studios, you'll make your story reel first, and you'll test it, and people get fidgety, and that's when those shots get cut out. But with Travis behind us and Leica behind us, you kind of celebrate a different kind of filmmaking.
I suppose essentially what you're doing is you're kind of, obviously you've got a kind of blank canvas and these worlds are all being created, but they're all kind of created in a kind of pristine way, and then you have to make them look really lived in and dirty them up and make them look like they have been there for 30 years. I think about like Mr. Prendergast, really. I mean, that's an incredible example. So you have to try and think yourself into that space where he's got years and years of stuff in there that you've had to create. I mean, that's kind of liberating, but kind of slightly daunting as well, isn't it?
Well, this is what the stop motion crew lives for, by the way, so that they can make millions of pieces of useless crap that no one will see unless you freeze frame it. But that frame will be beautiful because of it. You have to remember that we have an army of people, 450 people, whose job it is to create this. You have people whose entire life is creating individual blades of grass or individual leaves. And they want those leaves to be the best leaves you've ever seen on screen. But combined, all that combined, is what makes it magical.
Well, this audience is 450 people, and each one of them are the people who would have freeze framed it to look at them as well, to look at those individual leaves. So you're with the right audience there.
Yeah, but it's a thing with stop motion in general, that a real object with real light on it, shot through a real bit of glass, is still amazing, It's amazing.
I mean, this is obviously part of a big stop motion season. I think one of the most interesting things when you're watching stop motion is the fact that actually the animators who are putting these things together are actors in their own right, are they? I mean, you have a voice cast, but they are channeling through those puppets so much in terms of the gestures, and they have to think all those things through. How's that character going to move? How are they going to look? How are they going to react? You're doing that as an actor yourself, presumably.
But you are literally projecting something of yourself into this thing, and you're doing it all day. And you'll see people, like, if someone's doing a very kind of heavy, somber scene, their face goes heavy and somber all day, and then you see them at the end of the day, like the guy that's animating.
Some of them are always like that.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You sort of see someone get really so deeply into it.
And that's the thing, you've got to remember that they're not just on a scene for a day or two, they're on it for months. There was one the animator who did the Prendergast scene spent, I think, most of his time on the movie in the toilet.
I mean, I've never seen, pretty much any film, let alone an animated film, with so much detail. A toilet and cubicle so lovingly recreated. That in itself is not a usual route for us. You expect the studio to go down that route necessarily.
And it's all bespoke, because you get nothing for free. So every single item that you see on screen, you are creating this whole world from scratch. So in regular movie where you could just go out and source a knife and fork. Someone has to create them. And not only do they have to create them, they have to create them to fit the design of the hand that is holding them. So like in this movie, the proportions of the characters are a little pushed, shall we say. Some characters have one leg bigger than another, or offset eyes, and all that has to be taken into account when you're creating the world around them. The chairs that they sit on.
Yeah, sort of weird ergonomics, like their car, it's got like enormous windows and these tiny little
To
wheels.
fit Harry's head.
But even just, I guess, even just in terms of the puppet making, the armatures and the actual, the stuff that's built around all the actual kind of piecing together the character, if you're creating a very kind of average build, that's one thing, but you kind of challenge your puppet makers in that respect as well to go far beyond that, because everything still has to move, doesn't it? Everything has to be able to be pitchable or movable or whatever.
Chris had found Heidi Smith, the character designer, and it was a great process because it was really her and Ken Melton sculpting from her drawings, and she would do these great big drawings, really well, not digital at all, literally she'd come in with rolls of drawings and would roll them out. And there was no, she didn't know about puppet making, did she? Right?
Didn't care.
She didn't care. And nor did we. But that was the challenge of sending that. Ken figured that out in 3D, which is an amazing translation.
And sometimes you would get characters that have the like of which have never been made before as puppets. And so you have teams of people sitting in a room sweating and arguing about like how do we bring this to reality. And the easy option would be to say, well, we'll change the design, we'll make them more generic, more normal, but we didn't, we pushed and pushed and pushed. And a lot of the solutions that we found for ParaNorman then went on to help us with a lot of problems in the next movie and the movie after that.
And that does seem to be the thing about Leica, is that kind of, there's no challenge too great almost. It feels like you're always pushing the boundary, pushing the envelope, and as you say, rather than making those compromises, you just push to find a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of then rewinding, because you'd been obviously had a story on Coraline, and I guess at that point you might have been doing Desperado over here maybe. But it's a big step to then getting greenlit to have your second, to make your directorial debut on your second movie, the second Leica movie. So what was the process? I mean, is there an internal pitching process, or how did that work?
It was an interesting one. I had the first 30 pages of ParaNorman written, and I'd been working on it on and off for a long
That was with you when
time.
you went over to Portland?
Yes. And I showed it to Henry, and he read it, and he said, I like this, show it to Travis. So I showed it to Travis. Travis called me into his office, and he said, I think this should be our next movie. He said, where's the rest of the script? And I was like, it's at home. And it wasn't. I had all the ideas, but I hadn't really pieced it all together, so I then frantically tried to piece it together. But yeah, it was like, I think people could see what it was about, and then it was a matter. The first thing, because at that point I hadn't directed, and I kind of went back to my office and was just like, how do I do this? So I did what I knew best, and at that point that was storyboarding. So I storyboarded out the first 6 minutes, I think, and I cobbled it together with sampled music, and but I watched it back and I was like, yeah, this is a movie, this could work, and that gave me the confidence. But it was that initial first 30 pages, that was that first act.
And so how does it work? So obviously, so you had got the script which then had to go and develop and sort of complete, so to speak. And it was your first movie as a director. So Sam then came and joined you. How did you divide out who was responsible for each thing? Because you've obviously, even if you work together very well, you've both got obviously different visions and different ways of working.
Well, for me, it's like, I don't know how many drafts I've done actually. I've done a few, I think, by the time I arrived. But it was there, the script was really there, it was just long.
Yeah.
And we just got to hang out. And this is why, again, I think it was a great situation, because I've worked at big studio situations, with lots of executives and lots of tiers. It's quite homely, like, in a way, especially at that size, because Coraline had finished, so it's actually a very small unit at that time. Chris kicking around, the building was mostly empty, right?
At that point, yeah, there was like 3 of us working on it.
So we just hung out, and I just really loved the script, and Chris is just fine and great. You know, we really enjoyed.
Thanks.
You know,
After all these years, have you?
really, and but yeah, so it was really more organic. Like we had time. We weren't under pressure. We had time to hang out together. We had time to talk about things we liked. We had time to, and really together we just did a sort of script edit.
Yeah.
But and since ParaNorman's the only film I've done where the writer has been present all the way through, every day, and that's an amazing thing, because anything that we talked about, Chris would be like, I can see that, come back the next day, it would have changed the script in just the right way. Whereas the studio system, where you've got writers coming in and out all the time, and then they're gone, and then they're stuck with their stuff, and it doesn't quite work. So it was just a real. So I didn't need to bring a vision, I guess, what I'm saying.
But the key thing, I think, was that we both grew up watching the same stuff. So those points of reference were there. And if you both love those things, it's very easy to get it. You know.
And then I would say, because the script was so solid, once we started getting the crew in and bringing people on and developing it, we didn't have to worry about the story either, you know, it was there, so we could think more about character design and like codes of design, like how the clouds relate to the cracks and how the cracks relate to the wrinkles.
And stop motion is a kind of like a global art, if you like. People from all over the world sort of gravitate, because there's only so many projects at any one go. And this is like the second big project from a big American studio now. Like it's a big American story, but you've got 2 Brits at the heart of it, which is kind of interesting as well. They didn't know.
There's a British sensibility in there, certainly to some of the humour, and also the setting. It's very specific to Massachusetts. It's very specific to this old history of the United States, which I found very good.
Did you know Massachusetts already?
Yeah. In fact, when I was writing it, I stayed in the most haunted hotel in Massachusetts, in the most haunted room. Wow. Nothing happened. I was sitting there on the bed in the middle of the night saying, "Come on."
Did you want it to happen?
Yes.
Maybe you wanted too much.
Ghosts are fickle.
Spirits are funny things, aren't they?
Yeah.
We did a requiem when we went to
Yeah.
Boston and around Massachusetts with the art team and took photographs.
Yeah, I seem to remember, Sam, that you got chased out of someone's garden.
Yeah, I did, yeah. We were taking a picture, we saw the van, it was like Mitch's van was there. So we were like to take a picture of it.
He actually broke in?
The thing about the gardens there, the fences are very low. You can barely tell the boundary. And this guy came out and said, why are you going to take pictures of my van?
Was he old?
I wasn't anywhere to be seen.
Yeah,
I ran.
That's a sensible.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Brits back and forth, you know, from Portland to Bristol and around.
Oh, so we have got one here.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Tristan Oliver.
I have to say, a big shout out to him. Just before we get some questions from the audience, I just want to explore with you a little bit about the kind of whole thing between sort of pure stop motion and of course digital, which is a sort of necessary, I can say necessary, even it's not an evil, but it enhances the experience, doesn't it? It's an elevation. So it's a difficult decision to make though, isn't it, presumably? I mean, I love the fact like your tornado what was it made out of?
Yeah, like ballerinas.
Like a tutu.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the fact that you didn't go for like a CG option with that. You went, whoop, the whole thing.
Well, we did.
Elevated the edges of it.
That's the thing. And with a lot of our stuff, what we'll start with is something practical, something physical. So we had a bunch of biz dev artists who would sculpt these clouds out of talk, and they paint them, and we'd try all kinds of different things. And then we'd take a lot of pictures of them, and then it would at some point go to the VFX department, who then take that and implement it into their work. So everything we do, even the visual effects, always starts with something physical, tangible.
And those like Aggie at the end of the hair.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of those moments when you watch you and I think, well, how do you do that? Because you know there's some swing motion, you know there's some...
They made ink splats, and they scanned those ink splats, and then they turned them into 3D models, and they printed them out, and they shot them, Tristan shot right through them, I think, in different plates, you know, and they were animated on set. But they did go through a computer, and they came back out
the other end.
with the 3D printing.
And this 3D printing system, I think Coraline was the first film to 3D print. That was in black and white though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
it was the first.
This was the first. So each time it feeds into what we were saying before about pushing that technology.
We started with the first colour printer, 3D colour printer, and it didn't work properly. And the first test, the colour was unstable, but we had to get started because we decided we were going to start shooting. So we just went with the slightly jittery colour, and it kind of improved as it goes along.
But an indication of the jump was Coraline, because all their faces were hand painted. I think she's got 13 freckles, maybe 11.
Yeah.
Probably someone here knows more than I do. Yeah, okay. And Neil has got like 3,000. You know, but because we could print them, they were all exactly in the right spots.
But it's been an organic thing because it's become digital stop motion gradually since Corpse Bride. Because before Corpse Bride we used to shoot on film. And then you started shooting on digital cameras, and so then green screens came in, video assist. So the digital's crept in. It's not some new thing that's hit people really hard. And there was a great thing for me, really mind-blowing actually, because I'd come to stop motion in the 90s on these old literal cameras that aren't interesting. And then I wanted to do flushed away stop motion, but I didn't. We had to do it digitally, for another, the whole CG. So ParaNorman was my first experience of stop motion feature filmmaking, and it was mind-blowing because all the things that used to be like really difficult and really annoying when were not there anymore. Like you could have rigs in shot. We used to have to hang things on fishing wire to try and hide
And the thing that really comes across when you go around the exhibition is you need so much patience, it's so time consuming. I mean, as well as having that incredible ability, you also just need to be able to, I don't know how people get through the day, and knowing that you're doing 24 frames per second, you really do the full gamut at Leica. You don't get 24 out any corners.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge amount of time to animate literally just a few seconds down, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but it still lives on, so
That's it.
Better to make one good film that lasts a long time.
So I have some colleagues in either aisle who've got some microphones. If you'd like to ask a question, I'll be really happy if you want to put your hand up. I'm just going to say first question, are there any younger members of the audience, any kids in the audience who'd like to ask a question? I was going to just check first of all. Your definition of a kid, I'm going to leave to you for deciding. But is there any way, just to make sure, because it's always nice to do it. Yeah, there we go. Somebody over there.
How did you get into the film industry?
That's a good question. How did you get into the film industry?
I started as a runner, so I studied art and I did all kinds of art, and I taught myself how to make animation, and I won a little competition, so I was sort of getting there, but to get paid I started as a runner, and I would clean toilets and make coffee in the morning, and then I would sometimes get to do some background animation.
It's not all red carpets, is it?
Yeah. Well, now it is.
Yes,
So yeah, I just kind of worked my way up. Luckily, I met the right people at the right time, and they gave me a little break. So like someone gave me the break to clean the toilet. I guess not the biggest break.
How long did it take to make the movie?
5 years total.
That's your entire lifetime, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I was working on the story for probably, 10, 11 years before we started. But the way it normally works, well, in this case, it was about a year of development, a year of pre-production, year and a half
with shooting.
Yeah.
And 6 months.
Is that standard? With Missing Link, for example, is that the same?
More or less, yeah. Yeah.
There was one more question from a young woman in the audience a bit further down, and then we would go and open it up.
How long did it take to make one of those characters?
The actual puppets themselves, you mean?
Yeah.
I reckon a year probably, from a drawing to an actual puppet that you can move around, at least a year.
They're complicated.
And you do it the same way that Ray Harryhausen used to do it. There's metal armatures, you then build around, and it's the same.
Precise engineering, and there's sort of a lot of jewellery makers and sort of like engineers work there.
Okay, I've got time for a few more questions. Anybody can ask now, unless you can hear. Well, I think for the attention to, I don't actually know if we should or not, to be truthful.
I was going to ask, brilliant, thank you so much for the blessing that is ParaNorman. Where is he now? Like, where are all the cast members of all the stop motion pictures?
Well, it's good, it's lucky you should say that. You can meet them actually from Monday.
Well, Cody.
Oh, the cast members, in the puppets. Look at
Is that what you mean? Yeah,
The puppets.
What, both now?
Oh, yeah. have a look in the exhibition. It's amazing. It starts tomorrow on Monday, right?
But Cody was like in the Power of the Dog, wasn't he? Jane Campion's film.
Yeah. He's like 7 foot now. He was in one of the X-Men. I think.
Yeah. But the puppets, they enjoy a whole other life after the movie. They get to travel around and do exhibitions, like the wonderful exhibition here. And we like to have them on display because we want people to see them. And also, you know, in order to make a movie like this, we have multiples of these puppets. So, how many Normans were there?
Something like 12, isn't there? It's like a
Oh, sorry.
No, 24.
24. Okay, there's a lot.
24 Normans.
Yeah.
And
Everybody.
if you're a particularly senior cast member, who's whipped one out with you in the shoot, or are they all camping around?
They're great gifts. They're very great gifts.
Okay, so question over here apparently. Yeah, go ahead.
So with a film like this, it seems like a lot of work and effort goes into every single bit, into every single part. What would you say was the hardest part of the film in terms of getting it on screen that you found?
Well, the Act 3 was big, you know, it was a big, epic thing with lots of effects involved, you know, so that took a lot of departments. But sometimes I think but then the scene after with Norman and Aggie, where it's so close and so precise, is actually just as, if not more spectacular, you know, great acting and drawing people in to believe in, you know, the emotion. So, yeah, it's all different reasons.
Yeah, definitely the size and the scope of it. Each movie that we've made, we've tried to really push that, what you can achieve. But even back then, I mean, traditionally stop motion tends to be quite small in scale because you're limited with where you can put the camera, you're limited with what you can build. And so we wanted to make it feel like a wide open world. That was a challenge. For me, it was the characters themselves because the proportions of them were so wild.
Yeah.
And then having to engineer them so that they can, if you've got a character with 2 different sized legs, walking them becomes problematic. Animators hate us because they have to make that look natural. So I think it was a lot to do, stuff that you wouldn't even imagine because the characters have different sized eyes. If they're looking to the side, they suddenly go cross-eyed very quickly. Stuff like that you don't dream will be a problem is every day for 3 years.
You regret that choice.
But when it works, it really is unique.
Yeah. Toilet paper zombies are different.
Toilet paper zombies.
I think we've probably got time. If there are brief questions, do one from each side, and then that is it, sadly. So I'm just going to let you choose where you want to go to. Is that okay? There we go. So there's one coming here, and then there'll be one over on that side.
Why did you make a child as the main character?
Actually, Norman is very much based on me when I was a kid. And it was that feeling of, you know, not quite fitting in. And I think that is unique to that time in our lives where we're not exactly sure who we are. It is a coming of age story. It's about a kid who is discovering who he is and he's feeling comfortable about who he is in the process. So it was always supposed to be about a kid, a kid's movie about a kid.
And the final question, down here on the second row. So covers your final question as my board.
Hi. I actually saw the movie originally when it came out, and old. And it was like my first year of uni studying film, so it was that and Caroline sort of made me fall in love a little bit with stop motion again. I've got so many questions, but what would you say is the difference? I don't know if the terminology is right. Would you say, like, is it claymation? Is that sort of what you were doing? Is that?
It's stop motion. In claymation, there's no actual clay puppets in this. They're all silicone and metal, but it's the same, moving it by hand, frame by frame.
So, what do you think of that versus sort of animation that's made to look like stop motion nowadays? Because it is expensive. It's sort of a dying art.
Probably an old attempt, but now you can really make CG that look like stop motion.
Yeah, exactly. It's
You
sort
know,
of a dying art now.
Yeah,
So
it's hard to sort of spot the difference if someone's really trying to fool you.
But
And, well,
just-
I mean, that's the result, but to me as a filmmaker, it's just the joy of stop motion is you go in every day and you can see the film,
And
it's all around you, you can pick it up, touch it, you can smell it, you can, you know, you're not sitting at a screen. I just find making movies on screens is just tiring, it's just really tiring, not much fun, but like a stop motion production.
Yeah. Any movie that you're making, whether it's 2D, CG or stop motion, you're trying to connect with the audience, and you'll use any trick that you can to connect with them. I think it's great that CG is looking to us as a means to connect, and because what Sam's talking about, what they're looking for is that imperfection of reality, and that's what you get with stop motion. Real light on real objects, you get the fuzz on, you know, a shirt from a piece of real fabric. You get everything that's incorrect, imperfect in the world is there under the camera. CG spends millions of dollars trying to find this imperfection. We get it for free.
Well, I think on that note, I'm just going to say, you know, a big thank you to our friends at Leica. They have been so great to work with. The exhibit was amazing. To see some really properly sort of starts off now. So a huge, huge thank you to both of you for being here. Big thank you.
We're leaving London tomorrow, so yeah, so definitely check this out. Go to this if you're there. And if you enjoyed this episode anyway, you can press that button right there to subscribe. And if you liked what you see, you can see other videos up here. And we'll see you next time on Animated Educated.